Are people talking on your show about a general strike when it comes to rent, paying student debt, credit cards? Are there calls by any politician that you know of who's saying, don't pay? Like, this is off topic, but why are they using sheriffs to evict people for landlords? Is there any talk of just everybody just no longer paying?
I was hearing something about a general strike for May 1 in terms of work.
Well, I haven't heard to strike. If you're not working, it's hard to go on strike.
Right. And I think it's hard to sort of organize, sort of like how does everybody not pay on one day, or, to make it, substantial. But I think I saw something that 1/3 of Americans had missed their rent payments on April 1st. And I think at one point, the way that something like this grows is necessity, and people just skip rent in May. And I think part of the argument about all of the dynamic in our system is that the state, there is no free market. The state picks winners and losers the moment it sets up the rules of the market, where property is going to be protected more than like someone's right to eat. And so, the sheriff coming and evicting somebody is the sort of the most, I think, one of the closest to on the ground and sort of, narrow examples of what the actual dynamic is. And I think, having people understand that these are all policy decisions. The idea that there are cars and cars and cars and cars of people lining up to get food, that's a decision. That is the decision that we have made as a society. People talk about like, well, let's all go out and kill Granny. We just need to make the decision. We're making the decisions right now. Mm-hmm. It's just that they're submerged in some way. We can pay to feed those people. We can. Right. We print money. Literally.
We can't afford all the silverware. That's where it gets really expensive.
Silverware is really expensive.
That's the problem.
No, but these are all choices that we are making as a society, except for it is presented to us as if these are laws of physics. Mm-hmm. And they're not. They are policy decisions. The idea that we didn't have to cap the small bit. We're worried about small business paying people. And we should be clear. The small business loan grant thing is the vast majority of it is to pay the payroll of its workers. Right. And we don't need to cap that.
There was a headline in yesterday's Times. It said, next tranche of small business loans will only go to small businesses. And I thought, right. Wow, that's nice.
Interesting. Yes.
What an interesting idea.
And that there are some major corporations out there just like looking around and going like, do you think anybody's going to notice that we got this? Mm-hmm. And apparently Ruth Chris has had to give the money back. But some of the companies that work with Trump's campaign did very, very nicely. And remember, these are grants. You get 10 weeks worth of grants to pay payroll, and money's fungible. So if you paid for payroll for those 10 weeks, theoretically, and I don't think Trump's campaign contractors, I don't think business is bad for them. Business is probably okay for them. In fact, it's probably booming for them.
And you reopen Georgia, people don't come back to work, so they don't have to collect unemployment.
Exactly.
You're fired.
That's exactly it. You're not fired. You decided the business is open. You're not coming in, and
you quit.
And that means you're not eligible for right. Yeah, that's what's going on, I think, in Georgia, to a large extent. I think at one point, people need to become aware that coronavirus is not a political thing, but our response to it is completely a choice. It is completely a policy choice. We could, like many other countries, just say, everybody gets the yellow flag and everybody gets 75% of what they were getting before, 80% of what they're getting. Whether you're a bank collecting mortgage, whether you're getting rent, whether you're getting payroll, whether you were getting health insurance, whether you're getting unemployment, whatever it is, we're going to make you whole, or we're going to bring you up to a standard that is X, and that we're going to just pump the money into the economy. And that's the way it's going to be. We could do that.
We could
AOC
do it.
Apparently is calling for a work strike.
And what about not paying your credit cards? What about if everybody said, I'm not paying my credit card debt, I'm not paying my student loans? What happens?
I mean, I think it's one of those situations where everybody's looking to their left and to their right and saying, we all going to jump into this together or not? Because I don't want to be the one who's like, in 16 months, I'm being charged all sorts of penalties. I mean,
the government didn't distribute the small business loans. JP Morgan Chase did. Bank of America. Well, they didn't actually.
They made $10 billion.
Yes.
On fees.
Yes.
Because we have no apparatus. We have no apparatus to deliver this to anybody. The only apparatus that we had that was pre-existing to deliver
the post
money
office.
The post office would be one if we had set it up that way. But the only apparatus that was set up prior to this to inject money into anybody essentially is the Fed giving money to corporations and to banks. That's it. That's the only system that we have that exists to bail out. We have never contemplated, because
there's talk of the Federal Reserve giving every citizen their own bank account.
Yep.
And so that you would get your tax refunds directly through your Federal Reserve account. Federal Reserve is a bank. Other countries do this. So Wall Street says government can't do anything inefficient. Well, what about if the post office goes back to banking? No, we can't compete with the post office. Well, wait a second. You can't have it both ways. Either government is inefficient or government is overwhelming, and you can't compete with it. Can't be two things at the same time. So
that was the argument about the public option from insurance companies. It would be unfair to compete against them. Right. Well, David,
this was a real moment for me.
This was a laugh riot.
Well, you know what? This was valuable for me. It's reminiscent of what I went through 2 decades ago, coming on a show and saying what you don't mean to get laughs. I'd rather come on and talk to you about what
happened. Wait, was there? Did you go on like? Did you ever have an instance like this where it actually mattered? I mean, it's not like this is not. I got news for you. This is not going to hurt your comedy career.
Oh, I can do a good job all by myself. I don't need this show to destroy my comedy. No, I just ended up doing a different type of stand-up. Did you change your stand-up there? Because I don't remember what. Oh yeah. I decided that the jokes. I remember I did Conan, and I was already. This was like when Conan first started.
Yep.
And I realized I want to keep doing Conan, and I decided all the jokes would have to reveal.
Is this when Smigel was on?
Yeah.
Okay.
That all the jokes would have to reveal something about what a degenerate I am, but I didn't want to take the side of the plutocrats. It just felt so unseemly. So I just stopped doing it. And here with the Biden stuff, and I don't know, the thought of coming on your show and saying, Biden is the man who that's the problem with the coronavirus, that it hit 3 weeks too late. Had it hit in February, I don't think Obama in good conscience would have put his thumb on the scale for Biden.
It's quite possible. I mean, I remember the last debate before Super Tuesday, lamenting the fact that the Democrats were not talking about this, and Bernie, when it was just his debate with Biden, not making the point that we cannot return to normal. That ship has now sailed. The question is, where do we dock?
Right.
Not are we returning to home port? The question is just like, what foreign land are we docking in?
Right.
Yeah, I will say
Biden is
this.
not FDR.
No, he's not. And
FDR was paralyzed from the waist down. Biden's paralyzed from the neck up. From the, I'm back to being funny again.
There you go. Well, I will say this. It would have been, I frankly feel that Biden's chances to win would have been less without this. I just, I think his failures would have been clearer. What we need now, though, is some type of leadership from the elected Democratic Party. And frankly, no way. Just not happening. That's why Andrew Cuomo is, able to step into this vacuum and look like he's some type of demigod because there's no competition. And Gavin Newsom has decided, like, I'm not going to be an ass about it. I'll let Cuomo be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a complete vacuum of leadership in this country from all quarters.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months. It is going to become so dramatically obvious about the relevance of this leadership. I mean, I was saying to Brendan, back in 2016, from like the election of Donald Trump, maybe through January into February, almost the theme of almost every interview I would do was like, doesn't matter if we have a president. Is the United States government, never mind from a political decisions, but is it a big enough ship that it actually just sort of continues on a trajectory regardless of who is steering it? And we almost got there. We almost got away with it.
Right. Until the
7 or 8 months. Maybe he manages to, who knows? Maybe he would have been reelected, but no major slip up and, I nuked this country by mistake. Right. I didn't realize. But the reality is that society is complicated. And if there is actually a genuine crisis, and you have a guy who is firing all the key personnel, sidelining the key personnel, forcing the key personnel that he hasn't decided to do that to sit there and suck it up for a couple hours while he starts talking about scrubbing your goddamn lungs with Clorox. We're effed. And somebody in, we're like, we need, I don't know if it needs to be like more people in the media or if there needs to be, more people have to walk off that podium and just go, hey, folks, what's going on here is a shit show. And so I'm walking out of this room. You want to ask my opinion of it? I'll tell all. I'll be right outside. Like something like that has to start happening on a mass scale. And I think things like, a work stoppage, but yeah, the idea that, like, guess what? Not paying May's credit card bill. Just not going to do it. Just not going to do it. This is the only way that we as a society can respond. But the fact is that we're not there enough. I think where people realize, where the people reporting on that wouldn't carry, or there has to be a critical mass. And, people being educated that what we're going through is a policy decision, that this is a failure of leadership, both in terms of just like on basic practical level, but also on a political level. And I don't know, maybe we'll get there.
I think we're discovering that for decades, we've thought human life was cheap overseas. We could live with the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people whose lives we destroyed or killed in Iraq, Afghanistan. And we thought that's the price of doing business as an empire. But turns out those same people who made those decisions in Afghanistan and Iraq think the same thing about us. We saw it in Katrina. We're just numbers, collateral damage. Cancel Netflix. Cancel your Hulu and your Amazon Prime. That's what people need to do. They stop with watching this nonsense. Put away these childish opiates and pay attention, because I don't know. I still get people calling me up and saying, "What's on your Netflix queue?" It's as Postman said, we've entertained ourselves to death. I think we're there.
Yeah,
I think it's not. We keep, for the past 5 years, people were saying, if we don't do something, it's over. Now you dust yourself off and build yourself back up the way Japan and Germany did. But they destroyed us. The country's destroyed. I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm telling you, the country is destroyed. About 5% have survived this, with their bank account intact. And I don't know. Biden isn't going to change it. Biden isn't going to change it. He's not.
And that is David Feldman's aphorism for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Very hang in there, David. It was great to talk to you.
I can do many things. If you want me to be funny, I can do Sylvester Stallone if you'd like.
Should we end on a Sylvester Stallone?
Adrian, do I look like Sylvester Stallone?
You sort of do. Why? Are people telling you that? Are you getting
people say, I Adrian.
A little bit.
Okay. Hang on.
I still am going for like one of the Hogan's Heroes guys as you're trying to break out the on the other side of the gate. But
yeah,
that reference I think is for like 4 people.
Okay.
David, always a pleasure.
So much,
that was.
Thank you. I'm just going through some changes.
I understand. We all are. We'll check in with you soon.
All right.
And,
love you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
David Feldman, ladies and gentlemen. Next time we come, I think he's going to be in full Colonel Kunst, right? This is
Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Exactly. I saw a snail on the edge of a blade. Yeah. This is good. Are we done?